Hello and welcome to the 905 podcast and this Thursday's 905 Roundup. My name is Roland Tanner.
I am Joel McLeod.
And we have a packed lineup, so we're going to keep it short and sweet on each story because we've got a long list of things to talk about. And we thought we'd start off with a quick follow-up on the whole Oakville teacher dress code issue from a few weeks ago. I'm trying to put that in the least inflammatory way possible.
Fiasco is more like it.
Yeah. So Joe, what's going on there?
Yeah. So if you've been following this story, it's discreetly and quietly in the Toronto Star. Kirsten Rochery posted a story on the weekend, basically stating that the Halton District School Board, after their deliberation and review of the situation, basically came back and said that they cannot institute a dress code for this for their employees, their teachers, to dress appropriately and perhaps modestly or just practically in the workplace. I'm going to call kind of BS on this because the rationale was it could infringe on the freedoms of trans, LGBTQ, other denominations to dress appropriately or according to their beliefs or who they are. And I understand wanting to respect people's differences and allow them to dress appropriately, but the story stems from the fact that the teacher in question in a shop class at an Oakville high school was dressed rather inappropriately. Forget the sensationalization of their outfit, but you're telling me that there's no way that you can say, well, dress code of making sure hair is tied back in a ponytail out of the risk of being caught in heavy machinery in a shop class, or protective eyewear at the least. Same as no high heels, using maybe closed-toe shoes at the very least. Like it shocks me that this is an unreasonable accommodation for safety in a dress code to put into a high school shop class. It's stunning to me that this is even like they have to do this. I think we're going to leave it at that because the story is ongoing. Because apparently we're going back to the Ontario College of Teachers as they're still conducting their review under the direction of Minister of Education, Minister Lecce, to see about implementing a dress code for the entire teaching profession, which I don't think is unreasonable, truth be told, to just a bare standard of this is what's considered professional and acceptable in the workplace. We'll come back to it, and I'm going to leave it at that. But this is just an update for you to stay on top of what's happening in the 905. Yeah,
I don't think there's a whole lot that I can or want to add there. But I hate saying phrases like common sense because it's such a lazy statement. But there are obviously limits on what we can and can't wear in every avenue of life. We can't go into a workplace stark naked, so we can't go in wearing, so where that line is something that is a normal part of discussion in society. And if the point you made, if the school board can't do this, then what really is the point of the school board is kind of an issue that it's come up in a variety of different ways. And it's like, this kind of stuff is better handled at a provincial level anyway. The school board clearly can't handle it. Fine, then do away with these school boards that just reinvent the wheel in every municipality across the province. There's no point.
All right, well, let's move on to the next topic du jour, which hopefully, if you're listening to this podcast, you have not been sick and you haven't had a need to go to any of the fine hospitals, or not so fine as it turns out, around the 905. This is something we kind of been putting off for a while because it's a snowball of crises that just, as soon as we seem to kind of get a handle on understanding some of it, it turns over and there's a whole other aspect of it that is just overwhelming. And we're talking about the basically the collapsing state of our province's healthcare system. We're basically the only way I can sum it up in as general a statement as possible is that our healthcare system is collapsing. It is falling apart. It is no longer working. Whether that's the previous Liberal government's fault for not funding enough, or before that, the Mike Harris, Ernie Eves Conservative government for slashing the healthcare system entirely, or the NDP government before that. Quite frankly, I don't care. This government is the one on the watch. This is the one who's responsible for making sure that the system works when we need it to work. And they are not doing it. They're failing everyone in this province in spades. I have no idea what their motivation is. I don't care what their motivation is. What they're doing to the healthcare system in our province is an atrocity to all of us, and we should be absolutely furious about it. Basically, from what I understand, is we don't have enough healthcare workers, nurses, and other and especially those specializing in various forms of care, to staff, basically our emergency rooms, our operating rooms, or our ICU units around the province, and we're shutting them down. Like, what the fact that we're shutting down hospitals and we're hearing about COVID cases starting to creep back up. They're starting to rise back up, and we're now flirting with the idea of bringing back mask mandates. But we're not going to do that because, God forbid, that might actually help public health. It infuriates me to no end, because there are ways, we have the money. We know that we have the money to invest into healthcare. The government posted a $2.1 billion surplus, and we know that the federal government is willing to fork over even more money into our healthcare system, provided that this government provides assurances and guarantees that money will go into public health. They're not willing to do that. They just want, they want the money to put into, I don't know, more of a slush fund, what they did with the COVID money that the federal government handed over. It infuriates me just that this is being let to happen in Ontario is completely shocking to me.
Yeah. What can we add? I don't know, what did we expect when we voted for this government for a second time? When the opposition parties allowed this government to win for a second time by their complete ineptitude in the face of a government that was, before the most recent election, utterly morally and intellectually bankrupt, and being able to land a single punch on this government that killed our relatives in long-term care through just absolute callous disregard. And now that they've won a second election, the gloves are off everywhere, and they're willing to spend money. They're willing to cut gas taxes. That's spending money. They're willing to reduce developer fees. That's spending money, because that money still has to be spent. They're willing to write checks to parents to spend on whatever the hell they want for so many $100 million, $350 million odd worth of checks just going to parents, just because. They're willing to spend money on their priorities, which are bribes, basically a legal form of backhander. I'm not saying they're illegal, but province can do what it wants. And meanwhile, we're losing staff from healthcare, because who the hell would want to work in that kind of environment?
Well, they're not thanked. They're not appreciated. I mean, at what point did our current Minister of Health or our current Premier ever go to a hospital and just shake a nurse's hand and say, thank you for all the work that you did during COVID? Thank you for keeping, literally keeping those of us alive who are able to make it. Thank you.
And even if they did, it would be pretty shallow in my view, unless
at this point,
they
yeah,
came with a pay rise, a big freaking pay rise. Um, the people who've been on the front line of this thing are all the most traditionally abused professions, or people in professions that are notoriously hard. Blue collar workers in transportation and factories, healthcare workers, on the front, literally on the front line of the pandemic, teachers and education workers who couldn't stay home, who are every day
who kept
kept
the system running. And this is how this government thanks them, by saying, well, I'm going to hoard all my money. I'm not giving you a dime. What angers me the most is the hospitals that have a shortage of nurses. They've been resort to go to these private nursing agencies that cost more to hire a nurse, because those agencies have their own overheads. They have to, office expenses. There's a whole administrative staff that goes behind hiring one nurse, and they're hired to come in. It's incompetence to the nth degree that this keen businessman of a leader, Doug Ford, who knows how to save a buck and stretch that buck as far as it'll go. His solution is, well, I'll let all these nurses quit because I'm not going to pay them, but then I'm going to pay twice as much to hire them back. Like, who? I'm sorry, but in the private sector, you know what we do to that person? We fire their ass. Your manager gets called in and say, you cost my department double your budget, you're fired. And I mean, let's face it, Doug Ford was born with a silver spoon in his mouth, and my bet hasn't actually worked an honest day's job in his life. For him to say that he knows how to save the province money and how to get us, quote unquote, back on track, he has no idea what back on track means, what it looks like.
Well, he's making enemies now in places that he can't afford to. Some people may remember the Ontario Medical Association sticking it to the Ontario Liberals with just hundreds and thousands of paid ads before the 2018 election and before, because of things that they didn't like the Liberals had done, and basically throwing their support behind the Conservatives, either tacitly or overtly. And now, surprise, surprise, the OMA is a bit annoyed because guess what? The Conservatives are lowering doctors' fees on phone appointments. Well, yeah, the OMA have a degree of financial punch that the other healthcare workers lack very often. So, the Premier making an enemy of them is probably unwise. Nevertheless, it's difficult to have a whole lot of sympathy with them. It's like, what do you think was going to happen when you backed Doug Ford, another union that should have known better? But yeah, that's probably enough on that one for now. It's a disgrace. The priorities of this government are a disgrace. How many times can I say disgrace? It just is. They don't know what they're doing. It's done in a chaotic, mindless way. There's no kind of underlying logic to it other than screw anything that's public sector and give money to our friends. It is, by any normal definition, corrupt. Not necessarily corrupt in the actually broke the law way, but corrupt in the kind of
values.
Yeah, corrupt in its values. Exactly. Yeah.
I'm going to, before we close this chapter on the episode, I would send an invite to any nurses or doctors who are working on the front lines. If we'd love to hear from you, send us an email. If you're willing to, especially if you're willing to come on the episode and just talk about your experience, I'd love to hear what is it actually like on the front lines in this mess, and how are you holding it together in this day and age. Shoot us an email, info@905er.ca, and we hope to hear from folks like yourselves soon. But on that note, let's take a break, and we'll be back right after this. And we're back. So we were talking about um, unions who shake their heads at what were they expecting, which is somewhat of a segue into our next chapter on this episode. Roland, what do you got for us?
Yeah, kings of the what were they expecting? Except that this union has got an awful lot of things that help it out of this government, because this union isn't just a union; it's also a developer, one of the biggest developers in the province, and certainly one of the biggest developers in Hamilton, and that is Liuna. So there's an article today in the Hamilton Spectator. I mean, I actually made a tweet, I don't know, was it a week and a half ago when the announcement came out from the province about their attacks on the Greenbelt, and that they were overturning the city, Hamilton's and Halton's decisions not to alter their urban boundaries. And the same day, the Hamilton Halton Home Builders Association, who are kind of the cheerleaders for everything development in the area, sent out a tweet saying, yes, this is great for home builders and developers, but we'd also like to see that height limit in Hamilton. We'd like to see that overturned. Well, hey presto, here we are a week later. Guess what happened? That height limit in Hamilton also got overturned. I guess they forgot a week ago to include that. So the province is just overruling everything and anything. I mean, the joke I made then a week and a half ago was like, show some gratitude. You've got everything you've ever asked for, and you're still going to bitch that you don't have that height limit in Hamilton to build another 20 stories. You're getting sprawl, you're getting height, you're getting missing middle, you're getting everything. Basically, the province is saying you can build everywhere, even places you didn't ask to build, because the developers never really talked about missing middle. But everything you want, you get. And guess what? We're going to say up yours to Hamilton too on the height limit, on their ability to just say, 30 stories is enough for anybody. There are thousands of cities around the world that show far greater density than Hamilton or any city in the 905 or even Toronto that don't have a single building over about 10 stories. There's all kinds of ways to increase density, but no, that might just slightly inconvenience someone. And guess who it would have inconvenienced? Well, it would have inconvenienced Joe Mancinelli of Liuna, who is basically running a development company and is building housing and wanted more than 30 stories downtown next to the LRT line, which is also something that they campaign very hard on because they own land by the LRT land and they're going to profit from it. Talk about one hand scratching the other or one hand, helping the other. They have all sides of this deal. I mean, Liuna had a fantastic arrangement where they're not only, controlling labor costs, they're controlling the development legislative framework as well. It's a perfect business, isn't it? It's completely a conflict of every kind of interest imaginable. And they were out there talking about QP a couple of weeks ago and their solidarity with QP members. Well, color me completely unimpressed by any of that. They were a massive supporter of the Conservatives, of the PCs in 2018 and this year. Mm-hmm. And as far as I'm concerned, that is the worst kind of backstabbing of working people in this province in every possible way.
It's appalling. It's a sign that that these groups don't get what's going on at the grassroots in this province. In our last episode, we had on the Greenbelt Alliance to talk about. We're shifting the anger now from what happened in the education portfolio with QP and the amount of support and the grassroots they got there, and that momentum seems to be carrying over into all these other areas that the Ford government is really just trampling over democracy and the will of the people to cater to a very small, rich group of influencers in this province. And it's like the assumption is, well, they can't put the connection of, if you anger one group, what makes you think they are going to get support from these other groups? And it's kind of what happened with Mike Harris and Ernie Eves. They assumed the same thing of, oh, well, yeah, people might be upset with the teachers might be upset with me, but that's separate from situations of like environmental concerns and rights. They're not. People understand this stuff is all connected. They understand, well, you can't pit us against each other. People are united in their anger of, this is not how we want to live our lives. We don't want to live our lives forced to buy homes that aren't affordable for us because somebody else figures, well, I can make a good buck on selling you stuff that you really don't need or want, to send you to a school that is going to be underfunded and crumbling. You're sending your kids to a school that's underfunded, crumbling, with people who don't want to be there because they're not being paid properly. And God forbid you get sick. Well, it's a crapshoot if your hospital's ER is going to be open on that evening when you go down there. People understand this is all connected. We don't want to live this way. We want a better life. We want a system that works for us, not for a select few or the people who have the premier's personal phone number. These groups are going to regret this siding with the government. The people are strong in this one. I'm not a betting man, but if I was to take Vegas odds on how this is going to work out, my money's always on the people. My money is always on, especially when people are this angry. Like, I have never seen the anger against this government right now is amazing. Like, you just have to throw a dart at a wall and you're going to find a reason to get pissed off at Doug Ford and his cabinet. This is not a safe place to be for a politician. This is the end of your dynasty, your legacy by the next election. If they're expecting that people's anger is going to be disappear by the end of this, by the next election, no, because if things just don't work, people get angry and their memories are long.
Well, I hope you're right. I hope you're right, and I hope that the opposition get their act together. All the opposition parties get their act together. I certainly feel that anger, but my anger is also at the craven greed of businesses and organizations who are putting pressure on the government to get this. And as we're preempting actually the episode, because this episode is going to come out before our interview with in the Environment Alliance.
Alliance, yes.
But to slightly preempt one comment, a lot of this is about the name of Bill 23 is the More Homes Built Faster Act, and as you'll hear in that episode when it comes out, it's not actually about more homes being built faster. It's about land values going up faster. It's about taking land that speculators bought on the cheap and driving those prices up. Now, does driving prices up sound like something that will make homes more affordable to you?
No,
I don't think so. This
is
about making
a buck.
Wealthy. Yeah,
we're making a buck. And speaking of making a buck, let's move on to our final quick tidbit of information for the episode, and that is, if you're a subscriber to the St. Catharines Standard, you may have noticed on the front page that living wage is now nearly $20 an hour. We've had on from the Ontario Living Wage Network, Craig Pickthorne, to discuss that issue. I'm going to say almost a year ago that we had him on, and at that point, the idea of a living wage, for those of you who don't know, is you calculate costs of rent, transportation costs, groceries, utilities, that kind of stuff in an area, and you figure like what is the bare minimum wage per hour for somebody on minimum wage on the lowest rung of society to basically make enough money that they can take care of those needs. That basic need, that's a living wage. And we're at basically in the Niagara region calculating at about $20. And that seems to be roughly in the 905 area. It varies by some cents or a dollar here or there, but I'm going to say $20 is an average. they're still at $15 an hour for a minimum wage in this province. And it's, again, I go back to this idea that this government is so incompetent in terms of how to run this economy, is that the idea of, well, we can't, employers can't possibly afford to pay somebody a living wage or more than $15 an hour, which I call bullshit on. They could, a company can pay whatever they want. They just, you're telling me that Loblaws, who is able to, charge, who made millions in profit in a fiscal quarter, like millions more than what they expected. They're not losing money; they're making money. They can't afford to give their workers pay them $20 an hour to stock shelves or to clean up the aisles. I call bullshit on this idea that we cannot afford to pay people, especially in an age of inflation.
Yeah, and I think the most important thing, this is something that kind of struck me a couple of years ago. Actually, it was 2019. It struck me this: if you underpay someone, if you need $20 to live and they're earning $15. It's not that society as a whole, the country, the employer, the government, everybody, us, we, the taxpayer, we don't save $5. That $5 still gets spent. But that $5 is then provided by the government, by the taxpayer. It's provided in the form of extra healthcare costs because that person is more likely to be unhealthy. It's provided through, social security payments or top-up payments or whatever form. It's provided through, and it's far more expensive to pay it that way because
and inefficient.
It's more expensive, more efficient, more wasteful. It's more stupid to pay it that way. And basically, all those sums that you add up, all those extra costs that we pay to keep people earning $15 an hour rather than 20 are a subsidy, a massive, massive subsidy to employers. And overwhelmingly, it's the biggest and wealthiest employers who pay the crappiest wages. It's the Walmarts, it's the big brewery companies, it's the Amazons, it's these guys who are paying minimum wage, who earn the biggest profits, and who are being subsidized to the tune of millions and millions of dollars every year by the government to be able to get away with not paying a proper wage. So make no mistake ever, we pay that $5 difference. So it's more like $10, $20 that we're paying on top that we don't need to, and that each generation pays in damage to our society as a result of low wages of people living in poverty.
We keep hearing about the problems of inflation, right? And there's so much demands out there, and there's too much money in the economy and whatnot. And there's a bit of a truth to that. There's a bit of a truth of, there is probably too much money in the economy. The problem is it's not that there's too much, because Lord knows I don't have any of that money. Roland, have you been squirreling away your millions of dollars? I don't think so.
No.
But where it's going is, it's going to the Loblaws and the Rogers and Bell Media, and like all these top tier companies that are, they're giving billions of, like, the fact of that Loblaws is able to post millions of dollars in profit on a growth, like, for selling food. It sounds like, they have made a product that is just really unique. They've really marketed it. It's not like an Apple iPhone or a Google smartphone or something. This is food. This is what we need to live. And you're making millions of dollars off of inflation for this. And yet we have people who can't afford, like, they're on the bottom rung. They're not able to make rent, or they have to make a choice between rent and eating healthy, properly, because we're not willing to, this government isn't willing to say, no, that's the bare minimum. There's too much money in this economy, but it's not with you or I or any of our listeners. It's with the top earners in this province, and it's that. Here's the thing: they didn't earn it. I should say they didn't work hard and develop it. They jig the system, they get their tax cuts, and they force up our cost of living. They're not building homes for us to move into. They're building these gigantic sprawling subdivisions that they sell to us for money that we can't afford. And they walk away earning millions of dollars. They say, yeah, I'm just a businessman. Well, no, things are going to change. It's going to have to break, and some things are going to have to change. And that's ultimately what it comes down to. I guess the theme of this episode is that, the things are breaking because people are not putting up with this anymore. We aren't. We're angry. We know we're getting hosed over. We know we're getting screwed over by a system that is catering only to the rich and only to the powerful. And the only thing that we have to work with, or the only currency we have in this fight, is our numbers. Our numbers and our solidarity. And that's, I think, what the QP fight showed that okay, there's a strength in numbers that we can use.
There are strength in numbers, and this premier is a coward. Yes. He is weak. He has no intellectual basis to justify his decisions on. The tough guy Rob Ford, I don't know why I keep on calling him Rob Ford lately. Tough guy Doug Ford image is such a joke, and it's such a joke that again the opposition hasn't managed to pin that on him. But this is a vacillating, weak man who will just do whatever it takes to be popular, while throwing bones to all his buddies. So yeah, for a well-organized opposition, for well-organized movements that want to stick it to this government, there's all kinds of potential, but it takes some gumption and some hard work.
Well, let's call it quits for this episode, folks. Thanks very much for listening. We'll be back next week with more of the 905er. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
That's it for this episode of the 905er. Thank you for listening. As always, you can send us your feedback, thoughts, and concerns, or ideas for future episodes to our email, info@905er.ca. We'd love to hear from you. You can help us keep the 905er going by financially supporting us through Patreon as well as PayPal. Visit us at 905er.ca and click on the support tab. As well, links are in the show notes for your convenience. Lastly, you can find us on social media. Search for _905er on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. So long for now. See you next time.
Looking to make the most out of this life and optimize your personal wellness? Then check out the Natural Man Podcast. Join me, host Mike C., as we explore all areas of human wellness, physical, mental, and emotional. Learn strategies to optimize your own well-being and be in the driver's seat of your own health. Remember, your doctor works for you. Learn biohacks, neurohacks, ways to improve sleep, and ways to optimize your body and your mind. Check us out on Apple, Spotify, the Fountain app, and at naturalmanpodcast.com.